Okay, let's look at the concept of an outlier. Okay, guys, in a set of data, it is sometimes the case that a particular number is extremely high or low in comparison to the other numbers. These numbers are called outliers. You know, if you have a soccer, like if you look at the world of soccer, for example, you get these incredibly top soccer players that are just so good. They score more goals than anyone else, and they're really considered outliers because they're not average people. They're really the ones that stand out, almost the superstars. And in 1977, a statistician by the name of John Tukey, he invented not only the box and whisker plots, but he defined an outlier to be any number in a data set which falls outside of an interval. Now, the interval that he defined was from a minimum value to a maximum value. Okay, and what that the minimum value there, the minimum, in terms of the lowest part of this interval, what you do is you take the lower quartile, okay, Q1, and you subtract 1.5 multiplied by the interquartile range. What is the interquartile range? If you remember, the interquartile range is very simply, if you look at the interquartile range, it's the upper quartile minus the lower quartile, if you remember that. And then your maximum value in this interval, this outlier interval, would be the upper quartile plus 1.5 multiplied by the interquartile range. Now, if any of your scores in your data set fall outside of this interval, then of course it's considered to be an outlier. But this is a bit tricky at this stage, so let's have a look at what we mean. Okay, just to go through this. So let's take, now hold on to this. This is going to be the what we call the outlier interval. Now take this example. Consider the following sets of numbers. Okay, they're nicely organized from smallest to biggest, and it goes 15, 16, 1, 16, 4. It's all nicely organized, and I think there's about 15 of them. Let's just check. It's 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yes, and we must find the outliers. Which of these numbers are really outside of the outlier interval? Now, how we do it is we want to let's start off by getting the median first. Okay, there's 15 scores, so we're going to go to the middlemost score, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that score is the median, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on the left, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on the right. Now, what we're interested in are the quartiles, the lower quartile. So how does the lower quartile work? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 data values in the bottom half of the data set. So that's the middlemost score. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, and we circle 16, 4, and that will be your lower quartile. 3 on the left and 3 on the right. Then we go to the upper half, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we go to 16, 9 there as your upper quartile. Now, if you look at the upper quartile, 3 scores on the left and 3 scores on the right. The lower quartile, 3 on the left and 3 on the right. The median is right in the middle of the whole data set. So that's great. Now, what is the interquartile range? It's the third quartile minus the first, which is 16, 9, subtract 16, 4, which is quite nice. It's 0, 5. Okay, now let's get the interval. The interval to determine which of the scores are outliers. So let's have a look here. If we look at the lower interval here, we've got the lower quartile, subtract 3/2 multiplied by the interquartile range, and then we've got the upper quartile plus 3/2 multiplied by the interquartile range. Now let's see, what does this come to? Okay, this is the lower quartile, is 16, 4. So we've got 16, 4, subtract 3/2 multiplied by 0, 5. And over here we've got the upper quartile, 16, 9, plus 3/2 multiplied by the interquartile range there. Now this here comes to 15, 65, and this comes to 17, 65. So what is the interval that we're talking about, it's 15.65. There we 15.65, and then the upper part of the interval is 17.65. Now, look at this interval. Do any of the scores in our data set fall outside of this interval? Are there any scores below 15.65? Are there any scores above 17.65? Well, let's check. Well, look at this. Can you see what I see? 15 is most definitely outside of the interval. Okay, so 15 lies outside, so let's write him down. And then what about 17.65? Well, 17.65, we have then two scores that would do that. It's 17.9 and 18. These guys are also outliers. They're on the outside of that interval. So our other scores would be 17.9 and 18.0 there. Okay, and these guys are called outliers because these guys here lie outside. They lie outside the interval, that interval that we've determined there by Tukey, and these guys are outliers. One is very small, and the other two are at the upper end there, and they are called outliers in the set. Let's have a look at another example quickly. And in this case, we've got a whole set of numbers, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So there's 10 scores. They're also not very nicely organized, so we're going to have to rework them a bit. We're going to have to determine the quartiles, the interquartile range, and then see which of these scores are outliers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first organize them from smallest to biggest. So the smallest is 40. So we go 40, then it's 50, then it's 90, then it's 95, 95 again. Then we've got 100, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we've got, let's go down here and go 105, 115, 120, and 155. Okay, so there's 10 scores. So if you look at the median, it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The median would actually be an inserted number there, the median, but we're not really too worried about the median. We've got 5 on the left and 5 on the right. So what we do know is that we can get the lower quartile, which is going to be 90 and 115. Okay, that's going to be your lower quartile, and that's going to be your upper quartile there. Okay, so great. And we've got the lower quartile and the upper quartile there. So now we can go ahead and look at the interquartile range. Okay, so what's the interquartile range? The interquartile range would be the third quartile subtract the first quartile, and if you work out that comes to 25. Okay, so that is the interquartile range. Now let's get the interval. I'm going to actually do it directly, so let's go into, let's put a little interval. We take the lower quartile, which is 90, subtract 3 over 2 multiplied by the interquartile range. Then we take the upper quartile, 115, plus 3 over 2 multiplied by the interquartile range. So what does this interval come to? Well, 90 minus 3 over 2 times 25 will give us 52,5, and this is 152,5 if you simply work that out in a calculator. Okay, and there we've got our interval, our outlier interval. Now, which scores fall outside of that? Well, 40 is definitely, if you think about that, 40 is outside, so let's circle him. He's outside the interval there. 50s is also going to be very much outside. They're too small. And then what about 152? Well, I think it's 155 is definitely bigger. So those guys, the 155, so 40 and 50 and 155, these guys are our outliers because they fall outside the outlier interval. All of these scores in here, the others are pretty normal, they're pretty closely aligned, but the 40, 50, and 155 are completely outside of the outlier interval.